Tutorial 1.4. Setting up your file system, asset browser, and backup system. When you start working with Blender, you need to understand that you will use assets, textures, fonts, and HDRI files in almost all of your projects. Assets are objects that you store in your personal library that you can access using the asset browser window. Assets are usually objects like chairs, tables, bottles, trees, and logos. Textures are images that are used to appear as the skin of your objects. There are countless textures like tiles, wood, bricks, leather, and stone. Next to that, you will probably also use special fonts in Blender for text elements that you put in your projects. And finally, we also have HDRI background images that you will use to show a 360 degrees view of the soil and sky if your project is outside, or of ceiling, walls, and floor if your project is inside. Many of these objects you want to use in multiple projects. But you will also have files like an image file, an MP4 or an MP3 that is clearly specific to that one project and won't be used in other projects. To avoid spending hours of looking for these files, it is very important to organize your files very well. Perhaps the most important reason to organize your files very well is that your project file, which we refer to as the .blend file, holds sometimes hundreds of references to other files. This means that when you move the blend file to other locations or other computers, or when you rename the folders of the assets, textures, fonts, and HDRI files, your project file will likely not be able to find these files anymore. You can recognize these issues easily because the textures and HDRI files that cannot be found are shown in pink. But you might get error messages when assets can't be found. When fonts cannot be found, you will likely get the text in standard fonts in your project, because you will quickly use many thousands of file references in your Blender work. It is important that you organize your work properly from the start, because changing file locations later will probably cause massive issues with the references in your files. So below I show you how I organize my work to give you a sense how you can also do this. For Blender, I created one main folder, which is named Blender. I store everything I do with Blender here, except the program download files and program files itself. I use mainly my programs folder for that, like I use for other programs on my system.
In the Blender folder, I have 8 main subfolders.
Assets, add-on, fonts, HDRI files, projects, Python, temp, and textures. Most of these main folders have subfolders. The most complicated and elaborate subfolder is the asset folder. In the asset folder, I use 32 subfolders, and you will see it is quite difficult to do this without folders somehow overlapping. I use 2D, air conditioning, airplanes, amusement park, animals, bathroom, boats, cars, clothes, computer and mobile phones, construction machines, doors and windows, factory, furniture, garden, kitchen, lamps, music and sounds, music instruments, paper, people, sculptures, sockets, stairways, studio, taps, toilet, tools, trucks and buses, trains, tubes and weapons. You can see the issues you will have. If, for example, you have a missile that is launched from a submarine, in which folder do you put it? In boats or in weapons? Or is a submarine a weapon rather than a boat? You can see that it is not easy to make a subdivision of assets that is 100% clear on where to put what. The other subfolders are easier. In the add-on folder, only the human generator and Botanic have their own subfolders. I use 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K, and other for my texture folder, where each material gets its own subdirectory depending on the resolution of the texture. In the fonts folder, every font gets its own subfolder. In the HDRI folder, the Python folder, and the temp folder, I don't have subfolders. And in the remaining project folder, each project gets its own subfolder, and which most of the time also have their own subfolders. Usually I keep the .blend files and the final film or main PNG output files of a project in its main folder, and I generate film images and small film cuts in a subfolder in projects that I usually name film. It is obviously important to use the autosave function in Blender so you don't lose your work when your laptop runs out of power or your computer freezes. I use the temp folder to store the autosave files. You can set this under Edit, Properties, File Paths in the main menu of Blender. When you are checking the properties, please also check the System tab to select the graphic card of your laptop or computer at the Cycles render devices. This will speed up your render work if set properly. As a final remark about organizing your work, it is important to take a look at the outliner. Like organizing your files, it is equally important to organize your Blender scenes properly in the outliner. Make it a habit to immediately name any object or part of an object when you put it in a scene, and when you do, also directly put it in an outliner collection that you personally name in a way that it is for others easy to understand what they can find in the collections. Like wasting time on looking for files or assets, you also don't want to lose time searching for objects that suddenly seem to have disappeared. In the next episode, I will show you how you can find assets, textures, and HDRI files. See you soon.